Hey, it's good to have Andrew Ripp with us today. And man, I'm liking the digs, man. Earlier, before we started the Rewrite podcast, it looked like all I saw was blue skies. And I was like, is dude in heaven this morning?
Yep.
So what's
Yep.
happening?
I was walking, this is what happens when you show up 55 minutes early to an interview. We were supposed to do this in an hour, but I had it wrong in my schedule. So, Jonathan, thank you for accommodating.
Oh, dude. So that just means we get to talk for an hour. No,
Yep.
I'm just playing.
That's right. We get to talk forever. The blue sky was walking to my little studio through the yard. And yeah, you caught a little glimpse of my morning commute to work.
So it's basically, how far is it? Like feet,
50 feet.
inches, 50 feet. Wow.
Yeah.
How cool
It's a
is
little
that?
courtyard in between. We have a little studio slash, mom comes in, stays for the weekend. She crashes back here. It's awesome. It's been such a gift. We
So
used to
good.
Airbnb it out back before we had the kids. And now it's like Carly's like, I got to get a minute. And I'm like, get out of here. She'll go back and just
How
breathe for a minute.
cool.
It's really nice.
That's great, man. What a blessing. That's the truth.
Super blessing.
Dude, when it comes to our Rewrite podcast, one of the things that has been so interesting is hearing different people's stories.
Yeah.
We have many of the same experiences, loss or loneliness or
Right.
depression, anxiety, the highs, the lows, all that. But we have the similarity of coming to Jesus, that moment, that faith
Yeah.
story, and that's what we want to capture in the Rewrite podcast. So, man, I appreciate you taking time out today just to share your faith story, how you came to know the Lord.
I'm glad to be here with you, and I'm glad that I have one. I
Hmm.
think there's a lot of people still cruising around trying to figure out what the heck they're doing here. And for me, that's the majority of my life. Well, I guess I'm getting to the point where it's almost no, it's the majority of my life was searching.
Hmm.
And even when you find the Lord, let's be honest, it's still quite a journey of like, how do I navigate this? Like, how do I even know it's your voice
Hmm.
opening this door or telling me to turn here? But sometimes for me, I don't know if you're anything like me in this, but like God will often say, I want you to turn left, and it looks like there's a wall right there.
Hmm.
And
Totally.
you're like, okay. You just got to keep walking in faith that that thing is going to open up somehow. And over time, I've come to realize that there's never been one of those walls I've walked into and bounced off of when he's the one leading me.
Hmm.
However, I'm really grateful for the walls I bounced off of that weren't him leading me because I don't want to enter into a space. I've lived a lot of my life in a space I wasn't supposed to be in
Hmm.
just by kicking doors down, like fighting into rooms, not taking no for an answer. I mean,
Hmm.
there's something great about having resilience, but wisdom says, hey, there's a time for that. Let's make sure you're on the path that the Lord has for you. And then we kick into resilience in regards to going after him, not going after what I want. That was the big difference for me. Um, Grew up in Chicago, had a family that went to church every Sunday. Um, but it was like a lot of chaos in the home, a lot of fighting in the home, a lot of toxicity. Parents had a divorce I was 14 when the parents went through the divorce. It was just my pops really had a lot of baggage from his past that he had never dealt with, and I felt that fear on his life. I felt that insecurity, and my mom finally got to the point where I was like, "Look, there's substance abuse going on," and it got heavy, and finally it was like, you know what? This isn't what we're supposed to be. Oh, I'm sorry, that was an alarm on my phone. This isn't where we're supposed to be if we're walking with the Lord. And she finally, you know, took a step back. And in the midst of that step back, um, we really everything. It just kind of everything hit the fan. It was like I don't know, like everything up until this point at 14 years old, everything I knew to be my solid base I saw now was not solid at all. It was just it was built the house on the sand kind of a situation. And the reason for that, and I always kind of blamed God for it because I said we were going to church, family went to church pretty much every Sunday, but there was no relationship. It was just a place that we went. and we'd lift the hands and do the thing, and then we'd come home, and it was like it was for an hour a week, And thankfully, in the process of going to church as a young kid, I met a couple of people that really did live it out. Like I was very inspired by a couple. I'll talk about them because they're such a huge part of my story. Is Mike and Kim Singletary. Mike
Mhm.
Singletary was a Chicago Bear
Oh yeah.
uh, NFL player,
Yeah.
and he and his wife went to our church. My mom was really good friends with his wife. Next thing you know, we're on vacations with them, and I was really exposed to what a righteous life, the fruit of a righteous life, not just the actions of one, like not just the going through the motions of one to look like we're a certain type of family, but no, this is actually what we believe, and we're going after God on the daily. And I didn't really understand what that was. To me, the Holy Spirit was like a Mickey Mouse character.
Sure.
It was like,
Totally.
we got this thing made up and it makes us feel good because we're never alone. Okay, you
Hmm.
know? But then I saw in them, I'm like, you guys you don't fight, you don't have to fight through regrets like my family does. And you're still fighting through fear, but it doesn't throw you off your course,
Hmm.
And so cut to, I don't know, I'm 23 or 4 when I met the Lord, 24. So from 14 to 24, I ran. Like I went out to California with my guitar, pursuing the dream, rock and roll, sex, drugs, rock and roll. That was the thing. I mean, like I didn't have any roots. I didn't have the morals were out the window. My family wasn't really there. Anything my parents told me, well, it didn't work for them.
Hmm.
So what's that going to do for me? And I was just searching. I was just a hurt kid, didn't know how to look at the pain, went to alcohol for to console me. And um, it worked for a short period of time when I was honestly just not strong enough to stare the pain in the face and go, hey, this is what's actually going on here. Um, but finally got to a point, I was dating a girl out in California. I'd met her, I don't know, maybe 2001, and dated her for 2 years. And then she left me. And this was my come to Jesus moment where that, can you see me?
Oh yeah. Gotcha.
All right, cool. Yeah. So she left me. This is an incredible girl. She leaves me. She goes, hey, you're not who I know you could be.
Hmm.
And it was because of my alcoholism. Alcohol really pushed me into the kind of person I never knew that I could become. And it was just, I wasn't a good friend. I wasn't a good man, all the things. And when she left, it forced me to look in the mirror, I had never done that before. It was always everybody else's fault. And this beautiful, amazing human being gave me the gift of leaving me and forcing me to look in the mirror. So I'm 24 years old at this time. She leaves. I'm heartbroken. And who comes to mind but that couple from back
Oh,
in the day?
Mike Singletary. Yeah.
And I hadn't thought of them, like, because they were just my past. They were when I was a kid. But I thought of them because they had the thing that I wanted. And I went on Facebook or whatever, somehow found their number, just cold called Kim, his Kim Singletary, Mike's wife. Um, and I was like, "Hey, Kim, this is Andrew," and she calls me Anderson for whatever reason. Anderson, and I'm like, I didn't even think he would remember who I am. Like this was 10 years ago, and to a 25-year-old, that's like almost half your life. You know what I mean? But she not only knew, but picked up the phone, was like, what's going on? And like, I was getting ready to tell the story. I was kind of like hiding the fact that I was in pain because I was
Mhm.
trying to break the ice. And I remember her having to say, hey, we're packing up the car. We're actually on spring break right now. We're packing up the car to drive home. We'll be home in like 3 hours. Can I call you when we get home? And I was like, absolutely. Hit me up, hit me when you get home. She hangs up the phone, and I just that was my breaking point where it started to come out, I just started to cry, break down. And she called, like I was praying in this moment. I'm sure this has happened to a lot of you guys, especially those who have been chasing after the Lord, where you had that moment where you're like, all right, God, give me a sign.
Mhm.
I need you right now. Give me a sign. Boom, phone rings. And it's her. And she goes, hey, I don't know why I'm feeling this, but why don't you just get in your car? She knew I was in LA. They were in San Francisco at the same time. And they were driving from Tahoe to San Francisco.
Mhm.
She's like, why don't you just get in your car right now and drive up here and just spend some time with us? I hadn't told her anything.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I was like, okay. So hang up the phone, pack up a backpack, jump in a Jeep Wrangler, 95 Jeep Wrangler, rusted out, no doors, and drove from LA on the 5 all the way up to San Francisco crying. I don't know what I looked like when I got to their house.
That's a miracle in itself that you made it safely.
That I made it. And I'm just like haggard, looking like I don't know. And walked up, knock on the door. It's a beautiful house. And there's Mike and Kim answered the door. And they took one look at me and they were like, oh man, they give me a
Mm.
big hug. And instead of leading, they have 7 kids and they were all kind of like living in the same. So instead of leading me back to the family room with all the kids, they could see I needed some attention. So they diverted me into that room that nobody sits in, you know, like that
Mhm.
one in the front.
Mhm.
And I sat on the couch and they sat across from me for probably about an hour and listened. And I, for some reason, Holy Spirit opened up this part of my heart to know that this was the time to share the
Wow.
things that I'd never told anybody. Just told them embarrassing things, like the shame stuff came out. And by the end, I remember saying to them, like, I just want what you guys have. Like, you don't have the regrets. There's something about this place, and I don't really understand what that is, other than when I thought of somebody to call, and that I had like confidence in and security, and it was you that came to mind. And I haven't talked to you in 10 years. They were like, they challenged me in that moment. She said, tomorrow morning you're going to wake up. The kids will be at school. We'll be at work. You'll have this house to yourself. She like challenges this. Go out into the backyard, this beautiful, serene California, backyard, sunshine. Get out there, go on your knees. Don't get up until God meets you there. That was her
Wow.
advice.
How cool is
And
that?
I was like, okay, I'm down. Like if you're telling me this, I'm asking you how you got what you
Yeah,
got.
I trust you.
I'm on. So I got up the next morning, and I walked in the backyard, knees for probably what seemed to be 3 days, but probably was a few hours.
Mhm.
And doing the thing again, just like detoxing through my just tears streaming. And I got to tell you, man, like something shifted. There was a moment when I got back up off my knees and realized that I wasn't alone. I felt like I was got down on my knees and I was alone. But then when I got up, I was never, ever since that moment, I've never been alone. That was it. It was the rest of my life. When they got home that night, I told Mike and Kim what happened. We knelt down in the living room. He prayed the boldness of a lion over my life. I'll
Wow.
never forget that. And then Kim said, I said, I don't know how I'm going to do this alone. She's like, you don't have to. And I was like, I don't have any money to like do counseling or whatever. Like, I don't know how to do this. I don't have a church, whatever. She's like, well, you don't need money to call me. And she picked up the phone every hour and a half for 6 months when I
It's
called. I
amazing.
mean, maybe more. I talked to her yesterday, and it's still going on. It's constant. And I'm like, I'm struggling with this. She's like, oh, it's amazing, isn't it, how God works? We're going through this, and this is what God's showing me over our thing. And it's just perfect. I don't know. I saw something that I wanted. I reached out to those people and was vulnerable enough to ask for it, you know?
Dude,
And the
that's
second I
huge.
asked for it, it was mine.
That's huge. I mean, you can see God's hands all over it, and it's
Yeah.
like, I mean, and it's gentle, and
Hmm.
and it's just it's a father. I mean, it's
Yeah.
leading you to good people. I mean, godly
Yeah.
people. And and I thought, as you're saying this, I was thinking about this too. Is those who have that faith and that peace and that relationship with the Lord, it's like, man, you can't sit on that. You could be that
No.
person for someone else.
Yeah, you can. Well, they were not by way of trying. They were
Yeah.
just those people. Like
Yeah.
they're always available. That's what she does.
Hmm.
I'm not the only person that's calling her every day.
Hmm.
She's available. And I think that's what our job is,
Yeah.
period. Like you're working at a radio station. I write songs, but our
Hmm.
job is the same.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Sure.
we are here to be, not to share, but to be, and in being you share.
Exactly, dude. That's great. Say that again because that's big. That's big.
Yeah. I mean, that's just, it's like you're walking it out. If you can become the thing or the truth that you are preaching, you don't have to preach it.
Yeah, it's just it's evident.
You're a walking sermon. You walk
Yeah.
into a coffee shop. I mean, put it this way, you walk into a shop to grab a cup of coffee full of fear, right? What is the person that's taking your order experiencing?
Hmm.
They've got a guy that might be ordering the same cup of coffee that he'd be ordering if he was in joy, but they're experiencing whatever's on you
Hmm.
by way of the tone of voice and the spiritual element that does radiate from your spirit
Hmm. Hmm.
in a room. You can shift a room without a word.
Hmm.
And I think that's how. You
Yeah.
don't just know it, you become it.
Well, that's. I mean, the scripture says, it's the Holy Spirit that manifests Himself through us. And then
Yeah,
it comes out the fruit of the Spirit and love and joy and peace, patience,
that's
kindness,
right.
all those things.
Exactly right.
And then it's like, okay, there's something different about that person. That's the beauty of how the Lord works. Man, I've never I heard you one time talk about Mike Singletary. Totally forgot about that connection though
Yeah.
of how the Lord just put all that together.
Oh,
And
it's wild. I Ever since I was a little dude. I mean, you grew up in Chicago in the 80s, 90s,
oh yeah.
and he's like one of the heroes, you
Hmm.
know. There's probably like 8 to 10 sports guys that you would know of, and
Hmm.
he's one of them.
Yeah.
So to be in personal connection, and then not only personal connection like we know them, but the connection that we had was so deep and pure that we knew the essence of who they were.
Hmm.
Like he was a hero whether or not I knew him personally. And somehow I'm in the room, in the living room, playing the piano at their house. And I turn around and there's like my hero watching me with joy on his face. And I don't even know what I'm playing yet. He took me when I graduated high school. This was probably, this was the last time I saw them before the phone call. So I was
Hmm.
probably 17. I was one of the young kids. So I think I was like 17 and graduated high school. And I remember not knowing what I was going to do with my life. My dad had been gone for 4 years or whatever, 3, 4 years. And I called Mike and I said, "Hey, I don't know anybody else that knows people, like, but I can play and sing." And he had knew that because I
Hmm.
would do that. I'd play the piano. They had a grand piano at their house. And I remember he was like, "Hey, let me call you right back." And he made a phone call to the guy who sang at his induction to the Hall of Fame, which so happened to be Richard Marx. Richard
Golly,
Marx
man.
lived in North Shore, Chicago,
Hmm.
a place called Lake Bluff, maybe half hour, 45 minutes from where we were. And Mike called me back. He said, "What are you doing tomorrow morning? I'm going to pick you up. And we're going to go to Richard Mark's house. You're going to play him some songs." Because I was like, I need to figure out how to get into the music world. And all Mike knew as a football player was I know a guy who is, and it so happens to be Richard Marks. So we drove over to his house one morning. I think Mike had 2 or 3 of his kids because they have 7 kids. He had 2 or 3 of his kids with him, and then picks me up. We go to Richard's house. I remember, I'll never forget it. He walked us through the main house and then through this long hallway. If you don't know who Richard Marx is, he's like one of the biggest songwriters from like the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, like from his own stuff to In Sync. He was writing massive songs. Keith Urban, crazy. Luther Vandross, insane. So he's got all the plaques everywhere. And I'm walking through this hallway from the main house to the studio. and just surrounded by like historic numbers and plaques. I'm just like,
Where
I'm
am
about
I?
to play this guy this ridiculous song I wrote last night, and it wasn't good. But I remember he was like, "All right, what do you got?" And he leaned over. Yeah, it was another grand piano situation. I sat down, and he leaned into the. He kind of like put his weight on the grand piano. He was probably 2 feet from my face. He's like, "What do you got?" And I played him, like squeaked out this song, and he encouraged me, man. He's like, "I was going to tell you to move to LA, and maybe link you up with a couple people out there, but he's like, I think I can help you here." So we wound up writing a couple songs together. And then he had some really big stuff happening in his own career, wound up hitting the road. And instead of waiting for him to come back, I didn't know how long he was going to be. I was like, I'm going to LA. He was going to tell me to go to LA. So that's why I left.
Hmm.
But
But
I mean, that guy built so much confidence in me. I'm like, if
yeah.
this guy's telling me I got something,
Hmm.
all right, let's
That's huge.
go.
That's huge, man. And you
Real
think
huge.
about how God has weaved those stories now into your music, because I mean, you just listen through all of your songs, it's like, okay, there's a bit and piece of my story there. There's part of
Yeah.
that. That's
Yeah.
where that just comes naturally out of you,
Oh
because
yeah,
I'm
brother.
sure you're seeing hundreds, thousands of people on the other side from the stage, and you know that they're dealing with some of the same stuff.
I'm telling you right now. Have you heard the new one? We just sent you guys a new song maybe a week ago. It's called
Oh yeah,
Breakdown.
breakdown, yeah.
So this song is that. I mean, it's like until you've hit the bottom and realize that it's a gift,
Hmm.
you're going to keep hitting the bottom.
Yep. Yeah.
But when you realize that you are laying on a foundation that God built for you to build a house on,
Hmm.
now we've got something.
Dude, that's your story
That's it.
in a
That's
nutshell.
the that's it. Alcohol, man, I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for that beautiful gift, I wouldn't know half of who I am.
Hmm. Totally.
That thing drove me to the depths.
Hmm.
And now I'm like, thank you
Hmm.
in the weirdest way.
Yeah. I mean, and that's the beauty of how God works. He's like,
Yeah.
he takes the strangest things, the things that don't make sense to us.
Yes.
It's like, wow,
You can use them for good.
yeah, he gets glory out of it,
Yeah.
through our lives, man.
Pretty rad.
That's so cool. How's your family? How's things
Family's
this
great.
way?
We're in a great zone, man. We've got a 6 month old, a 16-month old, a no, 6 month old, 18-month old, 6 year old.
You're busy.
It's not a joke, but I'm in the zone where you're like, when you get 6 months into a new baby, you've got a rhythm where you kind of
Oh
forget what life used to look like when you had time to go to the bathroom.
yeah.
That's gone.
That's
You
exactly.
just wait. That's what you do.
That's what my wife says. That she's like, I'm just gonna go hide out in the bathroom. Don't tell the kids.
That's a great little quiet space. I mean, if you need 5 minutes, just pretend like you need to go to the bathroom. Sometimes I'll hide in the pantry, but that's because I want to eat potato chips without sharing.
Yeah. Well, that's
You,
what happens. Yeah, because once they see it, it's gone.
oh, the second they hear that bag,
Yeah. Yeah, you're in
it's
trouble.
gone. Yep,
We just buy two of everything.
there it is.
Got
That's a
your own
good move.
got your own little stash over here.
That's a good move, bro. Holy smokes. How's your family doing?
Everybody's good, man. We're
Yeah.
entering into the spring season of sports and baseball and
Yes.
softball, and ready for warm
Yes.
weather, and let's go.
We've got some warm weather here today.
Yeah, man. Yep.
70 degrees supposed to hit today. This is nuts.
That's what, because we get Nashville weather too for the most part. So yeah, we're 70 and sunny. Let's go.
That's right. It's awesome.
Let's have fun with that. But man, how can
So,
we I know you've got new music out, and you're getting ready to you're touring all the time and
yeah.
busy and stuff like that. What's something we could rally around you and just support you in prayer and
My
that
whole
way?
thing is present moment. When I'm here now, I'm in a good place. So it doesn't matter where I am, so long as I'm present there. I find that there's a lot of fruit in that
Mhm.
posture. It's hard for me to get there though,
Mhm.
especially go do a bunch of shows and come home. So with the tiny ones, I haven't been doing very many
Mhm.
shows. I've probably been doing 30 shows a year. which for most artists, that's like you're not even getting started yet.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Usually 80, 100. So, yeah, I think just being in the present moment for me and distractions being, um, you know, just diminishing distractions. That's
That
my
makes
thing right
sense,
now.
dude. I get
Yeah.
it. Well, and you have those little ones in your life, for it goes quick, and you understand that.
Yeah, it does.
Growing like weeds, and then
Yep.
it's like, whoa, where'd time go? But
What
man,
happened? Yeah.
I mean, I know we've got this Zoom thing going on, but I
Yeah.
appreciate you as a dad and as a husband, just from the
Mhm.
standpoint of you love your family.
Yeah, man.
Love
Yeah.
family's everything, man. And
It certainly is.
and how the Lord has blessed you that way, and just you can see him smiling, and that
Yeah.
and just your heart for others, and for little ones, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's
Yes. It really is. You get this gift of a family, and then you lose the present moment that's happening on the floor in the living room, and you're like, you wake up 5 years later and realize you missed it. I don't want
Mhm.
to do that.
Totally.
I don't want to do that. That's why that's my prayer.
Hmm.
It's like I'm in a golden moment
Yeah.
with these tiny little kids. And not only do I want to just soak it in, I want them to have a dad that they can like count on will hear them when they ask for me,
Yes.
rather than
Yes.
me. I'm on my phone and I do that too.
Hmm.
That's why I need the prayers.
It's like, oh, dude, I'm right there with you. Hang on one second. Hang on one second. I'm like, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah,
I got to eliminate that, because
yeah,
they're when they tug on me or they pat me on
yeah.
the leg, it's like, all right, phone can wait or business can wait, whatever it is. Yeah,
That's really good.
dude, I'm right. I'm right. We're living it out, bro.
Yes, sir.
We got that,
Yes, sir.
dude. This has been awesome.